Reconnaissance was the first use to which aircraft were put. In 1794, Capitaine Coutel of the French Army went aloft in a balloon and spent the whole day reporting on the enemy's movements. As a result, the French won the Battle of Fleurus. In 1911, the first military mission was flown by an airplane. The task was reconnaissance. Captain Piazza of the Italian Army flew a Blériot over Turkish positions near Tripoli. Piazza had a notebook and pencil. Today's spies in the skies use equipment worth millions of dollars. There are many kinds of reconnaissance mission, and subsequently, there are many contrasting kinds of recon aircraft. Here then is the story of some of these incredible machines, full of contrasts, from the mighty Blackbird to the diminutive Sentinel remotely piloted vehicle. The traditional form of aerial reconnaissance at the start of the U.S. involvement in Vietnam was to use ordinary cameras aboard, for instance, a Douglas B-26. On returning to base, the camera magazines are removed and the films processed. Then the laborious task of interpretation begins. It needs skilled photo interpreters who can see details other people would miss and who understand their meaning. Photo interpretation involves, amongst other things, studying the lengths of shadows, comparing the photos with detailed maps, and providing information which may result in an immediate air attack on a previously unknown target. Today, ordinary cameras are among the sensors carried by a supersonic reconnaissance aircraft, the Northrop RF-5E Tiger Eye. Pallets installed under the redesigned nose carry an assortment of cameras of contrasting types, as well as infrared line scan sensors. A big forward oblique camera can bring back high-quality pictures of a surface target such as a dam, even when it is moving past 200 feet below at 600 knots.
Cameras on.
Vertical cameras can be used in high-altitude overflights. Some reconnaissance aircraft are especially developed versions of fighters. None of this species is more important than the RF-4C, developed in 1963 from the Phantom II fighter. During the past 25 years, the RF Phantoms have not only grown into a diverse family, but they have been progressively upgraded with new sensors and other mission equipment. One of 15 units of the U.S. Air Force flying these airplanes is the 10th Tactical Reconnaissance Wing based at Alconbury in England. Many times each day and night, the 10th flies missions which not only hone the skills of the pilot and backseater, but also bring back valuable information. In Vietnam, the chief reconnaissance aircraft were the RF-101, RF-4, and RF-8. Typical of the photographs they brought back was this Soviet V-750 surface-to-air missile, known to Western sources as the SA-2. The thermal power plant at Hanoi was photographed at low level before and after being bombed. Dong Phong Thuong Bridge was the subject of many sorties to confirm damage. The Long Gai Railroad Bridge between Hanoi and China was also attacked and destroyed. Reconnaissance photos showed the results. One mission even brought back a photograph from a range of about 150 feet of a 57mm AA gun in action. The reconnaissance Phantom could go in at either high or low level, and as fast as most other combat jets. It has no weapons, but various electronic aids to help it navigate and survive in hostile airspace. The two chief recon sensors are the oblique lateral and panoramic cameras in the nose, an SLAR, sideways-looking airborne radar, in the underside of the fuselage, and an IRLS, an infrared line scan unit, just behind the SLAR. All three produce different kinds of high-definition imagery, including horizon to horizon. The IRLS gives thermal pictures which, among other things, can detect enemy activity at night. Camera films can be processed in flight and ejected over a ground pickup point, while radar and IR imagery can be transmitted by a special radio data link. There could hardly be a greater contrast than the RAF's Harrier GR3. It is tiny where the Phantom is big, leaves no smoky trail from its engine, can outturn almost anything in the sky, and needs no airfield. The pilot of this GR3 from No. 4 Squadron in Germany navigates using the Ferranti inertial system with a moving map cockpit display and a Smith's HUD head-up display, which gives vital steering information for safe flight at full throttle at extremely low level. This Harrier is on a TAC recon mission and is fitted with an external pod under the belly. All GR3s have an oblique camera in the nose, and the external pod adds 5 dedicated reconnaissance cameras. On the wing pylons can be hung tanks or rocket launchers, but on a recon mission it is the sensor imagery that counts, backed up by what the pilot saw. Thanks to its unique ability to operate without needing an airfield, the GR3 can be based very close to the land battle. Quickly it lowers the landing gear and makes a vertical landing in what looks like the middle of nowhere. Rolling forward to avoid ingesting debris, it keeps on taxiing until it disappears into a hide in a wood. In seconds, the Harrier has parked, the pilot chops the HP fuel cocks, and 2 ground crew rush out to unload the 5 cameras. Within minutes, the pilot is being debriefed.
My main target, you can just see my main target, but it looks as though the main armor has moved to this area here.
Your target is an infantry combat group.
Within a few more minutes, 2 other GR3s loaded with rockets are tasked with a strike sortie.
That is about 12.
During transit from their hidden base, they are soon doing Mach 0.9 at medium altitude. Nearing the battle area, they roll over and dive down among the weeds. They find the hostile armor just where they knew it would be, because with Harriers, everything happens to a compressed timescale. No time is wasted in transit, and hostile missiles cannot be targeted on your base before you up sticks and move on somewhere else. Many aircraft can be converted to reconnaissance missions by the addition of special recon pods. These, coupled with the aircraft's own navigation equipment, as in this Jaguar, enable the pilot to position his aircraft accurately over the area to be reconnoitered. Increasingly, reconnaissance aircraft use multiple sensors, which means devices working at different wavelengths. The IR line scanner is one of the most important. Its sensitive receiver repeatedly sweeps across the terrain beneath and builds up a detailed picture based on the variations in temperature of what it sees. IR, or thermal imagery, can provide high-definition pictures, which can be transmitted by secure radio link in real time, so that the interpreters receive it only thousandths of a second after it is obtained. IR imagery can defeat traditional camouflage. It also contains more information than ordinary photographs. Here, a British aerospace testbed 748 is recording on paper and on videotape. The pictures of a fuel tank farm show the level of fuel in each tank, which would not be deduced from optical wavelength photography. Skilled interpreters often know far more about enemy targets than do the people actually on the spot. A line scan output can be stopped at any point, and if necessary, the image can be magnified. Here, images of an airfield were obtained during a fast run overhead at 600 feet at night. Heat shadows show where aircraft were recently parked. Magnification of ×4 shows that the port inner engine of the Boeing 707 is whiter than the others, showing that it is running. Even a suburban housing estate by day or night yields masses of information, such as the 2 parked cars with cold engines and groups of people beside them. Often, infrared sensors are used for navigation and targeting purposes. This F-15E is carrying the Lantern Pod, the name being an acronym for Low Altitude Navigation and Targeting Infrared for Night. This enables previously limited aircraft, such as the original F-15 or F-16, to make precision attacks on a clear night. The Lantern Pod can feed infrared imagery to the GEC Avionics wide-angle head-up display, so that pilots can cross safely long stretches of hostile territory at full throttle and as low as 200 feet, even at night or in bad weather. There are 2 pods in the Lantern system, one for navigation and the other for targeting. The targeting pod can help surface attack missiles such as Maverick acquire their targets at much longer range. Over 700 sets are on order for U.S. Air Force F-15Es and F-16Cs, and a modified version called Pathfinder is likely to be used by several other types of aircraft. Such sensors essentially turn night into day, and even in northern European weather, they could enable tactical aircraft to fly essentially around the clock, with no loss in attack precision. Another total contrast is found in the looking glass missions. These get their name from the fact that they provide, at 35,000 feet, an exact duplicate of the mighty ground-based command and control system of SAC, the U.S. Air Force Strategic Air Command. SAC's hitting power is awesome. But suppose an enemy were to strike first, destroying the vital chain of command. No problem. Since 1961, a looking glass aircraft has always been high in the sky. These aircraft are Boeing EC-135s and EC-135Gs. When on station, each has an officer of the rank of general on board, as well as a large team of skilled and dedicated controllers. Together, they can ensure that no matter what happens to Washington or to any airbase, the retaliatory might of SAC's bombers and intercontinental missiles will unfailingly spring into action, and against a positively identified aggressor. Their communication systems are secure and unjammable. If the looking glass EC-135s are impressive, This aircraft is truly awesome. The Boeing E-4Bs are the heaviest, most powerful, and probably the most expensive military aircraft anywhere in the Western world. Based on the airframe of the Boeing 747 jumbo jet, the E-4B is the United States Advanced Airborne Command Post. Powered by 4 General Electric turbofans, these 44-ton E-4Bs contain the most powerful and comprehensive communication systems ever built into an aircraft. The power required is 1,200 kVA, or about the same as a Blenheim bomber or diesel locomotive. This enormous power is fed to 13 separate communication systems, which transmit and receive through 46 antennas. Communications frequencies range from VLF at one end to SHF at the other. SHF uses a satellite dish inside a doghouse fairing above the fuselage. The VLF, which is usually used to communicate with America's fleet of hunter-killer and ballistic missile submarines while they are submerged, uses trailing wire antennas up to 5 miles in length.
An air refueling receptacle in the nose enables mission endurance to be extended from 12 hours to a maximum of 72 hours.
The long-endurance missions are all the more amazing for the fact that the 3 decks aboard the E-4Bs have positions for up to 94 crew members. By comparison, the Boeing E-3 Sentry seems almost ordinary, but in fact, these aircraft are also very impressive. The Sentry's role is to keep station at a height of about 29,000 feet, and, using a unique combination of sensors, serve as an AWACS platform. AWACS stands for Airborne Warning and Control System. The Sentry is based on the airframe of the Boeing 707 commercial transport, rather than the EC-135, and it can stay on station 1,000 miles from its base for 6 hours. Sentry is manned by a flight crew of 4 and a mission crew of 13 AWACS technicians who sit at consoles and desks handling surveillance, data, target identification, communications, navigation, and other tasks. By far the biggest sensor aboard the E-3 is the Westinghouse APY-1 surveillance radar, whose antenna is a giant beam rotating above the fuselage. This beam is aerodynamically faired into a shape like a discus. A Sentry can keep track of all friendly and hostile aircraft and many other objects out to a distance of 230 miles in all directions. The E-3 is able to vector in friendly fighters to within range of an enemy, where they can intercept and target the intruder with their own radars. If necessary, it can be refueled in flight to extend mission endurance to 20 hours or more. Most Sentries have TF-33 engines, which are even older in design than the radar. But export customers such as Saudi Arabia, Britain, and France have specified the newer CFM-56 engine. Another airplane with the same missions, but a totally different environment, is the Grumman E-2C Hawkeye. It was an amazing achievement to package an AWACS-type system into a space small enough to go down the elevator of a carrier and be stowed in a congested hangar. Though they carry no weapons, their all-seeing eyes multiply the effectiveness and the safety of every other aircraft on board. Powered by two Allison turboprops, now uprated to 5,250 horsepower each, they taxi out, line up on the catapult, which is adjusted to the launch weight of 52,000 pounds, spread their wings to over 80 feet span, and have the nose tow bar connected. Then, with a mighty force from twin high-pressure steam cylinders, the big airplane is flung into the sky. Slowly, the flying radar climbs to its operating height of almost 30,000 feet. Once on station, it can cruise economically for up to 4 hours.
Bogey about 308, 142 at this time. Oh, Roger, I've got him. Control 7.
Looking through the rotodome, the radar and advanced radar processing system can see out to 200 miles or beyond, and up to 100,000 feet, a total airspace of over 3 million cubic miles. The displays can show and track 300 or more individual targets, and simultaneously control more than 30 interceptions, even in the presence of ground or sea clutter. The Lytton passive detection system can see enemy radars even farther away, without the Hawkeyes emitting any signals itself.
I believe I hold a bogey about 308, 142 at this time. Oh, Roger, I've got him. Control 730, I've got a contact now on your 293 at 192.
Every fighter put up by the carrier air wing cooperates closely with the Hawkeye, which can guide it to distant enemies whilst warning other friendly aircraft.
102, Roger, port 25. Bogey 195 at 6. 102 has a contact 190 at 7 miles. That is your bogey. Roger, Judy. 102, starboard hard. 240. Fox 730. Roger. Gary 102 has a Fox 1 this time. 730, control, Roger. Fox 2, 102, Fox 2, Grand Slam.
Without Hawkeye, that target would probably never have been detected. After relief by its partner, the Hawkeye returns to its ship to make a harsh arrested landing. Within seconds, it folds its wings to become once more a compact, ship-compatible package. Grumman also make the EA-6B Prowler, another airplane which carries electronics instead of weapons, but whose presence aboard is appreciated by every combat pilot. Based on the A-6 Intruder attack airplane, the Prowler can be catapulted into the sky and perform barrel rolls like a fighter, but it is actually an airplane of enormous complexity. Prowler is a flying platform for a tactical jamming system, the ALQ-99, which is claimed to have 10 times the power of previous jammers. Using advanced traveling wave tube technology, the ALQ-99 is set to jam hostile radars and other emitters according to signals detected by antennas at the top of the tail fin. After analysis and comparison with threat libraries, a task which explains the fact that the Prowler's long nose houses a crew of 4. The powerful jammers swing into action. The Prowler can carry up to 5 jammer pods, each covering one of 7 frequency bands, and housing transmitters at front and rear, so making 10 jammers in all. Each pod has its own windmill-driven nose generator, providing power for continuous jamming of a kind previously possible only with ground-based installations. Prowlers try to operate beyond the range of hostile fighters and missiles, and to keep one step ahead of the enemy technically. At 65,000 pounds, the Prowlers are considerably heavier even than the Hawkeye, but they too are compatible with the U.S. Navy's mighty floating airfields. Yet another complete contrast is provided by the EF-111A Raven. This is the Western world's newest and most capable electronic warfare aircraft. The 42 aircraft of this type were built as General Dynamics F-111A attack aircraft. Withdrawn from tactical fighter squadrons, they were completely gutted and rebuilt by Grumman for their new mission. These vital aircraft can deprive enemy air defense systems of their essential radar warning and communications, thus opening the way for friendly attack aircraft to reach their targets. Instead of armament, Ravens carry the ALQ-99E tactical jamming system, with receiver antennas on top of the fin and transmitting antennas in a canoe radome under the fuselage. An earlier ALQ-99 is used by the U.S. Navy EA-6B Prowler, but the EF-111 has wider coverage of hostile emitter frequencies, new processing, and greater automation. As a result, the crew comprises the pilot plus 1 electronic warfare officer, instead of a pilot plus 3 in the EA-6. Switching from the surveillance mode to the radiate mode instantly starts jamming the enemy systems, whilst continuing to search for fresh hostile signals. Usually, each signal is of a type already in its threat library, enabling jamming to begin within a fraction of a second. Five EF-111s flying from Upper Hayford in England were part of the force which participated in Operation El Dorado Canyon, the raid on Libya in 1986. The presence of these Ravens, which would have jammed the Libyan Soviet-made radars and surface-to-air missiles, certainly accounts for the low casualties during this mission. Whereas the EF-111A has variable sweep swing wings for maximum speed at sea level, The Lockheed U-2R and very similar TR-1 resemble a jet-powered glider. Its fantastic long-span wings were designed for flight so high that about 98% of the atmosphere is beneath the graceful yet sinister bird, manned by a lone pilot who feels almost remote from his planet. The original U-2 was designed for clandestine and in fact illegal overflights of any country considered to be unfriendly to the United States. In mid-October 1962, American reconnaissance aircraft flying over the Caribbean brought back photographs showing Soviet ships unloading jet bombers and long-range missiles. President Kennedy sent U-2s, Navy RF-8s, and other reconnaissance aircraft over Cuba to bring back clear pictures. In Washington, these were among thousands of images studied to check on the situation while the world held its breath on the brink of nuclear war. On the 28th of October, the Soviet Union agreed to remove the offensive material. This picture, on the 5th of December, shows the last jet bombers about to go aboard a Soviet ship at Mario. A great crisis was over. With all these fantastic glider-like aircraft, going up is easier than getting down. They depart like a homesick angel, but landing needs total concentration, skill, and experience. The chase car follows the landing as close as it can get, calling out the gap between front and rear wheels on the runway, while the pilot fights to keep the wingtips off the ground.
Tail coming down, 6 inches, hold it up.
Of course, for each mission, the pilot needs a pressure suit, and the cockpit and many other parts need a high-capacity environmental control system. Departure on an operational mission comes after days of intensive work by many specialists. The reconnaissance sensors are packaged in the long nose and in giant pods well out along the wings. The various assortments of photographic, return beam Vidicon and multispectral cameras, side-looking radar and synthetic aperture radar can weigh as much as 2 tons. As the aircraft takes off, its outrigger wheels and legs are jettisoned. Where the U-2s and TR-1s fly today is generally classified information, but we may be sure that each mission is planned with the utmost care. The new TR-1s, packed with advanced sensors, fly mostly in the European theater. The days of direct superpower confrontation are receding, but the U-2R still flies vital missions in many parts of the world, of a kind where any slip-up would have far-reaching and possibly catastrophic results. Many American reconnaissance aircraft have flown over Nicaragua in a sustained effort to gather information concerning communist aid. In February 1982, pictures were taken of a military barracks being constructed near the capital, Managua. A month earlier, reconnaissance had shown the runway being extended at Puerto Cabezas airfield, though the only aircraft visible was an AN-2 biplane. Russian T-55 battle tanks were also spotted in a temporary armor storage area near Managua. On the wingtips, it is usual for the aircraft to carry a radar homing and warning system in pods which incorporate skids to prevent wing damage on landing. No other aircraft in the sky combines sailplane-like grace with black-painted menace, as do the U-2R and TR-1. They were created in the highly secret Lockheed Skunk Works at Burbank which today takes pride in being the world pioneer of stealth aircraft. This amazing place created one of the most remarkable families of aircraft of all time, the Blackbirds. Like the U-2, these airplanes were created to fill a need. By 1958, it was recognized that soon mere height would not be enough. SAMs can reach higher than any airplane, so to defeat the defenses, a combination of stealth characteristics and unprecedented speed would be needed. New titanium alloys had to be developed and fabricated in routine production as sheet, sections, and large forgings, all able to stay strong at over 600 degrees. For the pilot and recon officer, there has to be a life support system, similar to that found in spacecraft. The emergency escape system has to work at over 100,000 feet. Hydraulic systems were developed able to operate at temperatures twice as hot as anything previously thought of. Totally new fuel systems were needed, and a completely new fuel, called JP7, developed, to be carried by a fleet of special KC-135Q tankers. From tires to canopy, every single thing had to be invented there and then, because nothing like it had existed previously. And the most amazing thing is that the entire task was completed in just 22 months. Wistfully, we realized that today we would spend twice this time organizing the committees to decide on the preliminary feasibility study. Not least of the achievements is that not a murmur of this giant program leaked out. The first airplanes were called A-12s. Following a terrifying hop on the 24th of April, 1962, without stability augmentation, a very successful proper first flight was made 2 days later. The flight testing was done at Groom Lake, in an utterly remote part of Nevada. Development went extremely fast, with up to 18 airplanes on the flight line. 2 of them were prototype long-range interceptors, YF-12s. They had a different nose, housing a giant Hughes radar, infrared sensors on each side, and a huge internal bay, from which could be launched the AIM-47A Super Falcon missile. But the greatest need was for a reconnaissance aircraft, one that could fly faster and higher than any such aircraft before or since. To train pilots, one of the YF-12s was rebuilt as an SR-71C dual-control trainer. Other trainers were specially built as SR-71Bs. Like other Blackbirds, they are powered by 2 fantastic Pratt & Whitney J58 turbo ramjet engines. At over 2,000 miles per hour, most of the thrust comes from the huge spike inlet. Quite a lot more comes from the afterburner nozzle, an amazing creation which at full speed gets white hot. For many years, the Blackbird operating unit has been the USAF Strategic Air Command's 9th Wing at Beale Air Force Base, California. Taxiing out for a training mission, you follow the yellow line past the unusual one-plane hangars called barns. Out on the runway, 65,000 pounds of thrust make everything happen fast, and soon the training flight is over the Sierra Nevada mountains on its way up to somewhere over 80K. Nothing else in the sky looks anything like an SR-71, and no other pilot conversion course comes anywhere close to this one. After each mission, the pupil, who is always a very experienced USAF pilot, knows he is still far away from being operational on this demanding monster. But he streams the mighty drag chute to give a pull resulting in 1G deceleration. Everything about the Blackbird reminds one of space flights. The high-protein breakfast, the donning of pressure suits with environmental control systems, and the way other crew members prepare the assigned aircraft. The missions are planned and prepared meticulously. On board are several tons of mission equipment. This is still highly classified, but it can be said that there is nothing else like it, except in equally classified reconnaissance satellites. Clearly, it includes cameras, vidicons, side-looking radar, and infrared line scan. Altogether, the systems cost tens of millions, but their value to the United States is beyond price. Nothing else could quite do this job. It has been said that the SR-71 sorts out the difference between what people say they will do and what they actually do. In the end, the success of each mission all comes down to two people, the RSO and the pilot, and they have a heavy workload. They are the elite of the elite. Today, the 86-ton, 104-foot-long SR-71s continue to fly with the 9th Strategic Reconnaissance Wing, though in reduced numbers. Day by day, they thunder off to the edge of space, surrounded by an aura of mystery and intrigue. At full speed, the power of Blackbird's engines is greater than that of 45 diesel locomotives, or the biggest Atlantic liner ever built. Any day they could, if they wished, beat the current world records for speed and for sustained altitude. But their purpose is not publicity. It is to gather information at the rate of billions of bits per second. This they can do today, at the age of 25, better than when they were new, for their sensors and onboard defense systems are continually being upgraded. In April 1986, 2 aircraft brought back detailed imagery of targets in Libya hit by F-111s. Libya has large SAM forces, which were on full alert as the SR-71s flew overhead in daylight. The full story of the SR-71s and how they operate cannot yet be told, but it's clear that supported by their special tankers, they can go virtually to any place on Earth. Today, the mighty Blackbirds still fly their awesome and somewhat sinister missions, such as here from Mildenhall in England. but they would never provoke an international crisis by violating a major or sensitive frontier. In the early 1970s, the CIA and USAF began considering how these aircraft might be supplemented by a new kind of reconnaissance airplane, whose presence could not even be detected. This was a big, but not impossible challenge, and it was again a job for the Skunk Works, now led by Blackbird engineer Ben Rich. After testing a series of small research airplanes called XSTs, from experimental stealth technology, Lockheed went into production with the oddest airplane in the sky, the Covert Survivable In-Weather Reconnaissance Strike. Often called the F-19, it is actually the USAF F-117, though this out-of-sequence fighter designation has not been explained. The USAF received 55 of these, and they have often proved their worth, though as they have much shorter range than the SR-71, their duties are more of a tactical nature. The world of aerial reconnaissance is full of contrasts, and yet another is the Grumman OV-1 Mohawk. Ordered in the 1950s for surveillance over a land battlefield, the Mohawk saw much action in the Vietnam War, where this one returned to base with its port T-53 turboprop out of action. Today, all survivors in the U.S. Army have been completely rebuilt and upgraded. There are 134 of these OV-1Ds. In addition to cameras, current Mohawks carry a sideways-looking radar, or an infrared line scan sensor, in a prominent pod slung under the right side of the fuselage. Like all Army aircraft, the OV-1 was designed to operate from small frontline airstrips, and also to survive small arms fire. As a battlefield observation aircraft, capable of keeping the commander on the ground aware of the enemy's movements, they are an admirable little machine. There is a very real need by any Army commander for the fullest real-time intelligence about a land battle. This is a more localized need than the strategic missions of the SR-71s, but the need is every bit as important. Instead of committing big and expensive manned aircraft in their crews, many NATO armies use the Canadair CL-289. Based on the CL-89, which was developed from 1959 and has a long and successful service record, the CL-289 is also known as the USD-502. The drone recon system was developed chiefly by Canadair, by Dornier in West Germany, and SAT in France. Fired off its mobile launcher by a solid propellant rocket, it cruises on the power of a small turbojet, which gives a high subsonic speed. navigational accuracy is precise, and the high-resolution Zeiss camera and SAT infrared line scan can bring back imagery every bit as good as that from a large manned aircraft, which is far more likely to be shot down. Real-time pictures can be transmitted back to base by a digital data link. A computer manages navigation, altitude control, which can include very low terrain following, and sensor activation. On return, the drone homes in on a twin-lobe guidance signal and is finally lowered to Earth by a two-stage parachute system. Quickly retrieved, the CL-289 is recycled for further missions. Having acquired experience with fast jet drones, Canadair then decided there should be a market for something again quite different. The CL-227 Sentinel looks like a flying peanut or dumbbell. Though it can fly at 130 kilometers per hour, it is seen really just as a means of lifting sensors high above the ground, if necessary up to 3,000 meters or 10,000 feet. This gives an Army division or brigade a tremendous increase in its range of vision. All the power for flight and control is transmitted through contra-rotating rotors amidships, which can move the 340-pound vehicle in any direction. The spherical upper section houses the drive motor and fuel tank, which gives an endurance of 3 hours. The pitch of the blades can be adjusted to control the flight trajectory. Inside the bulging lower section are the onboard electronics and the sensor package. Up to a weight limit of 68 pounds, almost any compact device can be carried. Obvious payloads include TV or low-light TV or infrared thermal imaging. Alternatively, the package could include a laser target designator or an electronic warfare package. The Sentinel can also be flown, tethered or free from any kind of ship, because it takes off and lands vertically. The ground controller flies the Sentinel via a radio link. But at 10,000 feet or at 30 miles radius, it becomes a mere speck, even to binoculars. Trials have shown that it is almost never detected by an enemy, yet it can do many kinds of valuable tasks. Surely we are witnessing the dawning of a new age in aerial reconnaissance, with spies in the sky no bigger than a large bird. Today, the greatest threat to most nations is nuclear attack by ICBMs, SLCMs, and other long-range missiles. The Reagan administration sparked off a controversy when it announced the SDI, the Strategic Defense Initiative, or as it is popularly known, Star Wars. This is a far-ranging program of study and research into ways of detecting and defending against long-range missile warheads. The flight of such a missile passes through 4 distinct phases, and there are, in theory, ways of stopping the attack at each one of these. During its climb under rocket power, the missile leaves a fiery tail onto which long-range interceptor missiles could home. Once in outer space, the payload might be revealed as comprising a nose cone containing 10 or more separate objects, some of them deadly warheads, and the rest decoys. SDI technology aims to discriminate between the two, and then to find ways of destroying the real warheads. 3 main kinds of weapons have been identified: lasers, particle beam weapons, and kinetic energy interceptors. As the payloads plunge down back into the atmosphere, the decoys may be expected to filter out or burn up. But soon, only 2 minutes remain before the warheads reach their targets. Last-ditch defense has to be made by an ultra-fast missile guided by an unfailingly reliable computer. It has been a major research program for many years to try to build a laser powerful enough to act as a kind of death ray.
Laser coming on. 3, 2, 1.
A demonstration against an old Titan missile shows what can happen. Ground-based lasers will be bounced off mirrors in space, or be based in space themselves. Lasers can be aimed at targets and fired at the speed of light, and their effect is unaltered in the vacuum of space, as are particle beam weapons. The kinetic energy killers are tangible, solid objects fired many times faster than a bullet to destroy warheads by impact. Yet another startling idea is to launch a large missile as soon as warning is received of the hostile attack. The rocket boosters burn out and drop off. Eventually, far out in space and carefully guided onto the exact predicted trajectory of the enemy missile, the payload reveals itself. A huge catch net, like an umbrella, unfurls itself, big and strong enough to catch and destroy the oncoming re-entry vehicle. All these systems will require highly accurate reconnaissance satellites. It all seems a long way from the handheld cameras used over the trenches in World War I.